Okay. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's wonderful to have all of you on this special presentation, Your Health is Your Wealth, Harness the Power of Nutrition. Tonight we have the privilege of having Dr. Mark DiPasquale, who is, according to his introduction on Facebook, a husband, a dad, a community leader, digital entrepreneur, and he was also, as a community leader, the councillor and deputy mayor of his local council. Right now, he is the principal at Adjusted Family Wellness Chiropractic and a very experienced and franchise business owner. And as my good friend and business partner, I know, having worked closely with him, that he's a very knowledgeable health professional. And he was also an unfranchised business UBP presentation coordinator in Melbourne for a while before. So, tonight we are very privileged to have him because you will learn a lot from him. So he's going to be sharing with us on the shop.com health and nutrition line of products, particularly the isotonix advantage. And as we've seen on this first screen, your health is your wealth. So without further ado, we'll hand the time to Dr. Mark. Thank you.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
If I can, I just want to get a lot of participation too of everyone who's out there. So just write whatever you want on the Zoom group chat. I'm going to be asking some questions tonight, so I definitely want some participation. So just keep writing away. Isn't it great that we can actually have this technology
talking by Dr. Mark?
Yeah, isn't it amazing that we're able to sit in our homes wherever we are around Australia, around the world, and to be able to speak to and communicate with each other. It's absolutely fantastic. Second of all, too, it's going to be an interactive presentation. I think one of the things I've been continually thinking about, it'll be one of many presentations as we roll out 2019. Everyone has the opportunity really to download this presentation, but I've actually changed it a fair bit. So this is the normal Your Health is Your Wealth presentation. What it is, it's a lot of the concepts and ideas that I use and have been using for many years, both in practice and also out there in the field, of how to use, the reasons why, the benefits of. So that's what I really want to impart to you tonight. I just want to double check that everyone can see my screen. So you should be able to see a picture of all the food on there. Your Health is Your Wealth screen, and it should be full screen. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Mark.
Okay, perfect. So we're ready to go. All right. So basically, I'm going to go through the ideas and concepts step by step, and along the way, I'm going to ask a series of questions. So what we're going to do is going to be using the Zoom group chat for answering those questions. So the reason being is we're going to move as fast or as slow as everybody wants us to. Okay, so very interactive. All right, now the answers to these questions, just be very honest. Okay, so be honest with your answers. And also anyone who does come on or anyone who is joining us, just don't worry if you're interrupting. Just welcome. So I think that's all I can say as part of an introduction. Got a couple of props here which I'll just refer to every now and then. But other than that, if anyone does have a question or has I think questions are most pivotal. Don't wait till the end. You might miss them. It might actually add to the presentation as well. Okay, so just a bit about myself. My name is Mark DiPasquale. I'm actually a chiropractor and have been for the last 15 years plus. It's an amazing industry to be in. It's amazing to be working every day in health and wellness and everything natural. I've been selling the isotonix and have been an unfranchised owner for over 5 years. So I think I know a fair bit. I've had a fair bit of training through Douglas Mitzi and Vivian and even the trainers from the US as well that have come out over the years. And I've also done my own research on a lot of the isotonix, how they work. the products and the latest research as well. Bit of a plug for Jeff Strong as well. He's from one of the companies that does a lot of the research and developers of the products too. He's at National Convention most of the times. He's great to hear all the new information. So National Convention is coming up. Highly encourage everyone to be there because we do get the latest information research-wise, and that's what this is all about. It's all about the cutting edge and it's about the latest stuff. So all right, let's get into it. So with regards to the questions, as I mentioned to you, here's an example. The first question is, and it goes to the first slide, your health is your wealth. Now, the question is that true? Okay, so is your health your wealth? Or is there something more valuable than your health? Okay, so I want to use that as an example because if I ask the question, is your health your wealth or is your health valuable to you, and you say no, well then I need to then dig a little bit deeper and I need to explain a few things possibly. If I ask you, is your health important and is it valuable to you, and you say yes, well then we can move on straight away. We don't have to stop. So that's the first question. So what I want to do is I just want to throw it out there. The question is there anything more valuable than your health? Is your health your wealth? If anyone says no, just write that down in the Zoom group chat and we'll see whether it actually works, okay? Because then we have to go a little bit deeper into that. Okay, good. I'm seeing yeses. We're seeing trues. Yeah, we're not seeing any no's. Good, we can go on. This works. This is perfect, Kitty. Very good. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so if nothing really comes up as a point of issue or contention, we'll be getting through this very quickly. So what we're going to go is go to the first slide. Hopefully that changes there. Let's just see if it does. All right, here we go. All right, so one of the first slides in the presentation is the state of our nation, because what we need to do is we actually need to talk about what's the state of our nation's health? Or, if there's a lot of people internationally on the call tonight, what is the state of our international health? Now, I think if we look across the board, quality of life has decreased. We know that obesity is at an all-time high. We're using more prescription drugs and medications than ever. And we've got record deaths from heart disease and cancer. It's a bit of a problem because life expectancy has also increased too. So people may have the interpretation that because we're living longer, then we're healthier. But the statistics are actually saying that we're not actually healthy. Or as a population, we're not actually as healthy. So one of the questions is our nation healthy? Okay, so what does everyone out there think? Is our nation healthy or not? Let's have a few people put a reply up there. My interpretation of it is no, not as healthy as we need to be. The statistics actually do show that through our lifetimes, especially in the Western world, we will have 1 in 3 people will have to deal with cancer in their lifetime. And 1 in 2 people will have to deal with the complications of heart disease, heart attack, etc. in their lifetime. So on those figures alone, it's not a good outlook. I'm seeing a lot of no's. I haven't seen a yes yet, so we can move on, right? That's great. Excellent. Okay, another thing that we need to get into is if we establish that, we need to determine whether the quality of food has decreased. Because one of the questions that we need to answer or speak about is, and a lot of people think sometimes, oh, I don't need to supplement or I don't need to take anything extra. I just get everything from the food that I eat. That's okay, but let's look at it. Let's look at it a little bit more. Now, there's a concept that over the years, our foods have actually decreased the amount of nutrients and minerals in them. There are a few reasons for that. The other slides in this presentation go into it in more depth in the way of farming practices, etc. But if we look across the board and we just see that there's mineral depletion, There's crops that are being grown by major corporations to bring to big companies. There's the transportation of food is an issue. Often fruit and vegetables are picked not ripe, and then they're ripened with gases in chambers. So I think everyone knows that this is the way that things have been going. Now, one of the real important things to know, though, is that there's in 1992, the Earth Summit report did go into this and actually looked into the nutrients, etc., vitamins and minerals in foods that were being produced. And it did go look through all the countries you can see on the screen there. And here we go. Australia is one of the lowest depletion. Now, the reason why Australia has one of the lowest depletion rates is because, in case no one really knew out there, is Australia is predominantly desert. The countries where there is a lot of lush, fertile ground, obviously you can produce more vitamins and minerals in fruits, vegetables, and products. But as far as Australia goes, we're pretty much all desert apart from our coastal areas, and that's a bit of a problem for us. So the question is, and what I'm trying to get everybody to understand, is that in general, are there less nutrients in foods today than before? So are there less nutrients in foods, vitamins and minerals that is, in foods today than there are years ago or before? Now, generally, if the answer is yes, please write it up there. But if you think it's no, well, then we have to dive into it a little bit more. So in general, if we think that foods aren't as healthy for us, well, then we may have a case that we may need supplementation. That's one of the objections that sometimes we get in the field. I get a lot of these sometimes with my patients when I recommend either a preventative mode of supplementation or even a treatment mode. They say, oh, look, I don't need that, I'll get it from my food. But when we go into the statistics of what is in the foods, it's a lot less than is actually needed. Okay, good, I'm getting a lot of yeses. Let's continue moving on. That's awesome. We're going all right. Okay, so now let's look at, if we look at how the food is being delivered to us, then also we have our lifestyle. So the National Nutrition Survey is a very important survey just to look at, and it just shows that really our lifestyle, only 50% of Australians are eating enough fruit, 91% of Australians are not eating enough vegetables, only 1 in 20, and it came out to 5.1% of adults meet both guidelines, eating enough fruit and vegetables. So not only do we not eat enough fruits and vegetables, but guess what? The nutrients within those fruits and vegetables are exactly what they are. So we've got two factors there. Firstly, not growing correctly, so the nutrients are low. And secondly, if we're not eating enough, well then we're going to be pretty much deficient. Okay? So, the question is, and the question I'm asking now at this point in the presentation is, should you supplement?
Excuse me, sorry, Dr. Mark. Everyone, can you please mute yourself? I don't know who is speaking in the background. Just trying to locate the person. Let me just have a look. I think that's her. Yep. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Can you? Yep. Continue, Mark.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
So the question is that I'm looking for answers on the group chat is, should you supplement? If it's a yes, well then obviously for the reasons that we've just gone through, and there's many more, that's good. If there's no, well then we need to dive into it a little bit more, don't we? Okay, so yeses, any no's? Everyone cool with that? Yep. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Okay. All right, good. Okay, so one of the things that now we move into is the industry of supplementation. And there's been a lot in recent years with regards to big companies Some of them actually backed by pharmaceutical companies who make medications. They're actually sponsoring large, they sponsor tennis, they sponsor large sporting events. You've heard of Swiss, all those sort of companies. And the amount of vitamins and minerals that have been used lately over the more recent years has grown. Okay, so this is something that I just like to mention. It's not a pivotal point of why we would want to either take supplements or or do anything with regards to the industry. This is just something that you just need to be aware of. And the reason why you actually need to be aware of this is because not only has there been an increase in the number of people who use vitamins, minerals, and natural or complementary medicines, so to speak. The reason why is because I think people know that the foods that we eat aren't as good as they used to be. I think they know that they're not eating as well as they have in the past or have needed to. So there's an understanding there that they can actually be helped. Okay, and that's why this industry is actually booming. So we'll just move on. We'll just move on from there. I'll just move to the next slide. Okay, so here it is. Are you planning for your health? This is not a question that I need answered, yes or no, on this one. So this is just one of the slides. But what it is, it actually does highlight where people actually pit their health, like as in where they think their health is. So health doesn't just go into the negatives here with 0 to -5. So let's go through these just to get a bit of an understanding. So -5 would be, I have serious concerns about my overall health. -4 would be, I feel worried about my health. -3 would be, I have constant concerns that affect my health. -2, I have health challenges that affect me on a daily basis. -1, I have some minor complaints about my health. And at 0 is I feel okay about my health with no complaints. So most people start their health at 0. So if they don't have any signs or symptoms or health issues, they think they're actually healthy. Now, unfortunately, that is somewhat the medical field. The medical field is always looking for complaints, either looking for symptoms, looking for when health has been lost. It doesn't work in an area where there is an upside of performance, function, and health prevention. So if we were to move up to the next ones, as in a positive one would be, I feel good most days. I feel well on a daily basis. +3 or +3 is I feel energetic and healthy. +4 is I feel active, energetic, and fit. And number 5 is I feel great and am proactive about my health. So look, there's a big upside all the way from 0 to +5 that we should be thinking about and should be talking about. Because the question I'm asking is health the absence of symptoms? Okay, so the question is health just the absence of symptoms or having an obvious problem? So if we look at the scale there, anything in the negatives would be that we have symptoms, but anything in the positive would be, well, we don't have symptoms. Okay, so which side of the scale does health sit? So does it sit in the negative side or the positive side? Okay, so I'm getting, there's no there. So the answer to that is health the absence of symptoms? Well, no, that's not health. Health is proper function, how the body is working, whether there's going to be a problem later on down the track. So health is in 10 years or 20 years' time, am I going to have the cancer? Am I going to have the heart disease? Am I going to have the diabetes? Not just do I have the symptoms of cancer now or heart disease, such as high blood pressure or anything like that, or diabetes. So it's important to understand that health is not just an absence of symptoms. So in my opinion, in practice, and in practice, when I'm going through a history on a patient, etc., we're always on the defensive, so to speak, because generally there's more going on underneath in the systems than you can see. Okay, symptoms are always the last thing that you see with a health problem. Now, in using all that information, in summary with that information, all of us really should be adding vitamins and minerals to our daily diet because we do not get enough of them from our food alone. Okay. All right. Now, just the concept now I want to go through is two concepts that we'll be using a little bit. And the first one is prevention and the second one is active treatment. Now, it's important to understand, if you think about yourself, of why you would be eating anything, taking anything, it's either coming from a mode of prevention or it's coming from an active treatment of something. So let's say, for example, I have high blood pressure. If I have high blood pressure, to prevent high blood pressure, to actively treat high blood pressure, I may take a high blood pressure medication. Okay, so a medication that lowers my blood pressure. But how do I prevent high blood pressure if I don't have it? So how do I prevent actually having it 10 years down the track, 20 years down the track, 30 years down the track? Okay, so that's an important question that people need to understand. Because when they actually are talking with family, friends, colleagues, even business associates, even when they're talking to themselves, they'll sometimes wait until there's the obvious signs and then actively treat something. Okay, a clear example might be high blood pressure. The research shows us, we have countless numbers of research shows us that the pycnogenol in OPCs and OPC3 lowers blood pressure. So that it would be actively treating, and if you already have blood pressure and you take OPCs for that, okay, it's a good thing to do because you want your blood pressure to be lowered naturally. But what about prevention? So if you don't have high blood pressure, would you be taking OPC3 and pycnogenol in that to make sure that you don't have high blood pressure later on in life? So it's a whole different concept. Now the concept of preventative comes to the question, or the question that we ask there is, should you supplement to prevent health problems from starting? So with regards to prevention, should you supplement to prevent health problems from starting? So out there, if you can get on the group chat and just, is it a yes or no? Should you supplement to prevent health problems from starting in the first place? Okay. Now for this question, I'm actually looking for any no's. Okay, because if there are any no's, that means that we're waiting for something to show us a sign that there is a problem before we do anything about it. And often that can be too late. Okay, all right, so there's a lot of yeses there, that's good. And the second question too relating to this is, should you supplement to actively treat health problems that have already started? That's a bit different. This is now moving to active treatment. So should you supplement to actively treat health problems that have already started? Okay, so I may have high blood pressure. Should I be looking at if I was looking at having high blood pressure, should I be using OPCs to help lower that by a few points, which is actually what it does? Okay, so any yeses? If there are any no's, can I see those too? Yep, no, that's good. There's plenty of yeses. I don't see any no's. I think we're on the right track. This is good. So both of these are valid, but we need to know where we're actually coming from. Okay, but obviously we don't want to wait until there's an obvious problem before we do anything about it. Okay. Now let's now. So we've established now that there's two concepts: whether we're preventing or actively treating, and we've established now that there is a case for actually taking supplements. Now, once we've established those, it's appropriate to choose the right supplement for optimal health. And that's an important thing because this is what we come up with time and time again, right? See, for myself, it's been probably very easy because in practice, you're always looking for the latest thing, and you're always looking for the latest, the best thing. Now, I can say that over the last 5 years, I haven't found anything better than the isotonic delivery system. Now, would I have started using it, something else, if there was something better? The answer is yes. Because if there was something better, I would be using it, okay? Because my thoughts are for the health of my patients. And if there's something better out there, I will be using it. But there hasn't been anything, and I can't see how there would be anything better than the delivery system of the isotonix. So with that being said, let's move to, I think I went a little bit too far there. We need to go into the absorption of how vitamins, minerals, etc. are taken into the system, because the aim of our digestive systems, now we're going to start getting a little bit technical. The aim of our digestive system is to maximize the absorption of nutrients that you eat or drink into the bloodstream. Okay, so when we eat something or we take something or drink something, the aim is to actually get that into our bloodstream. Because once it goes into the blood, that's where it gets carried on the body and it goes to where it needs to get to. So that's the main aim. So with that theory in mind, we should be looking at how we can get whatever we're eating into the bloodstream more quickly. Now, there's a concept that we need to understand, that the molecules within our food are moved through into the bloodstream by receptor sites. And there's competition for these receptor sites. But that's all I'm going to go into. We're not going to go into it any more technically than that, because we'll basically lose the understanding of where we're actually at the moment. And vitamin and mineral absorption can be enhanced by presenting solutions in optimal concentration to the absorption sites. So what we're looking at here is, look, if you drink something, eat something in the correct concentration for it to go straight into the bloodstream, obviously it's going to go there more quickly. If it's not going to, it has to sit in the stomach to change into the correct concentration before it starts going into the digestive system. That's what that's actually saying. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to move straight into now is probably the disadvantages of pills, capsules, and tablets. Because if we go into the disadvantages, what I want to go into then is the advantages of what's not that. So one of the major disadvantages of any tablet, pill, is that when you actually eat them, or you put them into you swallow them and put them into the stomach, sometimes they may not dissolve completely in the stomach, which is not effective. Also, if we look at, they can actually have problems with moving from the stomach into the intestines. They can actually get caught in the folds of the stomach, because the stomach's not just a smooth surface, it actually has folds within it. That's important to understand as well. Thirdly, too, a pill can dissolve, but the water that you actually drink with it can actually make the stomach dump the contents, and absorption sites can become saturated. So what this means is, if you take a tablet and you have a bit of water out of a glass with it, that water, the stomach can actually dump that water straight in or through to the intestines, and now the water is now competing for all these sites for absorption. You don't necessarily want water competing with those sites. You want actually good nutrients. If you're dehydrated, of course, you want water to be going into your system. But you probably want the nutrients first. So just those couple of things to think about. And also, one of the things to understand, which for me is one of the key points, is that the stomach acid, which sometimes just sits in the bottom of the stomach, and sometimes through the day there might be a little bit. When the tablet goes in there, sometimes, the acid in the stomach will actually denature or start to damage the good nutrients which can be actually in a tablet. So they're much, much less effective. Now, if we go to So here's an example of some tablets in an X-ray where they haven't dissolved and they're into the intestines now. That's in the large intestine there. Now, if we actually move to the isotonic delivery system, this is what I always talk about with all my patients. It's called the isotonic advantage. So everything is always to an advantage or why it's the actual best. So the advantage being in that if we have a liquid going into the stomach, so if we can see here in the first picture, liquid going into the stomach. Now, at the base of the stomach, we actually have cells which are receptors which check it to see whether the concentration is ready to go into the small intestines. It starts to get a little bit technical. It's called the osmolarity of the solution, and it has to do with the pH of what the body needs to actually take in. So effectively, the stomach is a bit of a protective mechanism for the inside of the body. When we eat something or we drink something, it then converts it into a substance that can go into the system easily and won't damage the body. One major example which I love using, which can damage the body, is actually Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is actually a very acidic substance. It's actually not very good for us at all. So Coca-Cola has so much acid in it that, and everyone's heard that Coca-Cola actually has sugar in it. But if Coca-Cola actually didn't have the sugar content that it has in it, we actually wouldn't be able to stomach it because it would be too acidic that our stomach would sense that and would actually throw it back up. That's how acidic Coca-Cola actually is. Then what they've done is they've added the sugar to it to balance it out so that the body can actually digest it and run it through the system. So what we actually do, what we actually have is we actually have a valve at the bottom of the stomach where the solution will go through once it's at the right concentration, and that's what we want to do. We basically want to get whatever it is out of the stomach as quickly as possible into the small intestines where the absorption actually happens. Now, this diagram, if those who haven't seen it, I use this every day in practice. This is one of the brochures, the isotonic brochures here. Everyone can see that in my screen there. And in it, it's got that same picture there. It's really good to show people how the isotonic system works, okay? Because it's so different to tablets. It's the main competition to them, okay? So if you don't have any of these or you haven't read any of this one or this brochure, I would recommend you actually do get a copy and have a good read of it. It's there on the screen anyway. Now, in comparison to that, it's got a good diagram because then it talks about how the tablets take longer to actually break down. They actually get eaten by the acid, which is not good. It's not an advantage by any stretch of the imagination. So, one of the things that we need to understand if we are taking an isotonic substance or an isotonic liquid, we need to make sure we're taking it on an empty stomach. So we can't take this with food, unfortunately. If we took it with food, it would just mix in with it. Then what would happen is the acid in the stomach would denature or would start killing all the good nutrients in it, and we won't get as much into the bloodstream. So the calculations that have been done and what we can safely say is that if we do take an isotonic, a dose of isotonic substance on an empty stomach, and we don't have any major stomach issues or any major concerns with regards to stomach function, we can bet on having about 95% of whatever's in that substance go into our bloodstream. Okay, so that's pretty high. And the calculations that we use for a tablet or a capsule is 20%. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that a little bit later when we start talking about cost of isotonic formulas compared to tablets and capsules. Okay. All right, so let's move on a little further. Okay, now here's a table You don't have to read through the entire table, but here's some other ingredients that are actually in isotonic formulas, which are another advantage. So they add smaller advantages as well. I'm just going to go through a couple of those because these are very important, because if we talk about the isotonic advantage and the advantage of why we'd want to be taking vitamins and minerals in an isotonic form, it's important to understand what these mechanisms are too. So one of the ones which I want to speak about is when you mix up an isotonic solution, okay, it'll start to fizz, or it'll start to bubble up a little bit. A good experiment one day is if you actually mix any of the isotonic compounds with warm water, you'd see that it would actually froth up and it'd overflow. Okay, there'd be way too much carbonization. So what actually happens is there's the process that is added, the main part of the process is actually potassium bicarbonate. So that creates the effervescence, or the fizzing, which allows the bubbles to come up in the solution. Now, it doesn't have to be put in there for us to get good bioavailability, but what we know is that from anything fizzy, what it does is the fizziness, and I'm just going to go to another slide now which explains that in the presentation. The fizziness and the carbon dioxide which is let off actually momentarily reduces the thickness and viscosity of the mucus layer of the intestinal tract, but promoting absorption into the bloodstream. But just imagine that there's a protective layer on the lining of our digestive system, the intestines. So momentarily that effervescence, that carbon dioxide, allows that to be stripped, and then the substance is allowed to be absorbed more quickly. That's why fizzy drinks have that effect. Fizzy alcohol has that effect. The alcohol in fizzy alcohol is actually absorbed into the body much more quickly than if it's not there. So that's very important to understand as well. That's a real advantage. That's a real advantage for quick uptake into the bloodstream. Another advantage too. So hang on, before I go further, I just want to ask a question. Is that understandable? Does everybody understand the reason for the fizziness in a lot of the compounds? Just a yes or a no in the group chat would be awesome if you could do that. Cool. Yep. Particularly if there are any no's, I can explain that a little bit more. Okay, that's good. A couple of yeses. Excellent. Okay, so here is another advantage. The second advantage is that there are buffers which are actually used in the isotonic compounds, which allow, so when it goes into the stomach, sometimes there's some acid either remaining in the stomach or has already started to be secreted into the stomach. Generally, if you think about eating, for example, it's always recommended to be taking isotonics first thing in the morning, okay, as soon as we get up, because the stomach's empty. But one of the hazards of that is as soon as we get up, we may be a little bit hungry. If we start even thinking about food, guess what? We start to secrete some substances into the stomach, getting it ready for digestion. So there's some buffering that actually happens. Things that are added, as we could see on the previous table, the citric acid, the malic acid, and also the potassium bicarbonate. So I'll just go back to here. So if you see on the table here with regards to the buffering, that is a definite advantage, because we don't want any substance that goes into our stomach to be damaged by the acid. Because if it gets damaged by the acid, well, then it's not going to be available to go into our bloodstream. So that's very important. That's a definite advantage. Now, also another advantage, I don't think it's a major one, but a lot of people think that it could be. I suppose it depends on what age you're at. Is that the isotonics, being a liquid, they offer an alternative to pills and tablets, because research has shown that 40% of adults have experience difficulty actually swallowing pills. So if they have difficulty swallowing tablets and they can't actually do that quite easily, obviously a liquid is very easy. And I haven't really met anybody who can't actually drink anything. But definitely have spoken to people who find it difficult actually swallowing tablets. So that's a bit of an advantage. Another thing too, which I like to continue talking about to the community through my practice as well, is that one advantage is that any people who have had gastric problems, or they've had lap bands, or even procedures that actually bypass the stomach, gastric bypasses, that's, basically the stomach isn't working effectively. So if tablets in these situations aren't very effective because they've got to sit in the stomach first to break down. So if we do take the substance in an isotonic form, it can just bypass the stomach, go straight into the small intestines where it gets absorbed straight away. Okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. So there are a few of the main advantages. Some other ones which I often like to discuss and have in conversation when I am talking about the isotonics is that there's no need for any binders. Binders are needed in tablets and capsules because you actually need to hold them together. If you don't have any binders, what actually happens is the tablet will start falling apart, and that's not good for the tablet, I suppose. But so not having to have binders is something that our body doesn't have to process. So I think that is very important as well. And also, there doesn't have to be, or in tablet production, there can be fillers. So fillers are things which, just pack out certain things and make them go further, I suppose, or make people think that they're getting more for their money. They're totally useless, and it's just something else that the body actually needs to process. And some of these things can sometimes be a bit toxic to us. So to be able to administer these to my patients and be able to take them myself and know that there's nothing that's unnatural about them is absolutely fantastic. Okay? So they're the main advantages of the isotonic delivery system. So we went over the disadvantages of tablets, and now I hope it's very clear with regards to the advantages of taking it in an isotonic form. Now, one of the coolest things and one of the best things, and one of the things I think we should always be thinking about and talking about, is when we talk about the cost and to value ratio. So when we look at for example, a bottle of OPC3, which retails at $102.50, and we might think to ourselves, well, that's a little bit more expensive than these tablets of pycnogenol that are on the shelf of the chemist, because you can actually get tablets with pycnogenol in them. The isotonic delivery system is the only system which allows it in the isotonic form. Definitely not effective. There was a study that was done some years ago which actually tested OPCs in tablet form compared to OPC in the isotonic form, and the delivery into the bloodstream of the OPCs in the bloodstream in the isotonic form far outweighed. I don't have that information now, or that graph on me now, but it's a cool study to actually look into. Now, another example I like to use as well is vitamin C is a compound which I recommend a lot to in my practice to my patients for immunity, to prevent colds, flus, immune responses, etc. In actively treating a cold or a flu, superdosing on vitamin C works really, really well. Now, one of the things that we compare, because a lot of patients will come in and say, look, I have vitamin C at home already. And then what we do is we do an experiment. So that experiment is we basically break down the cost of a dose, and the dose we work on in the isotonic form is, now a daily dose of vitamin C is 500 milligrams. Okay, if you look at the bottle, that's what it actually is. Now, the cost of it being around, I think it's has now decreased to $50.25 per 90-day serve. works out to be 55 cents for that dosage, which is 500 milligrams. Now, if we put the calculation onto it, which is 95%, remember being isotonic delivers 95% of what's in that solution, that equals 475 grams. Now, if we get a tablet of vitamin C, which is 1,000 milligrams, which says in the bottom bottle that each tablet is 1,000 milligrams, and it's 20% effective, out of each tablet, you're only getting the maximum 200 milligrams. So you have to be taking at least 3 tablets, dissolved correctly and working a 20% effective rate to come anywhere close to 1 dose of the isotonic vitamin C. And when you talk about a bottle of vitamin C in the supermarket being somewhere around $25 to $35, and you've got to times that by 3, that is very ineffective, and it's actually more expensive than the isotonic solution to actually buy. So what I really like doing, what I encourage you to do is actually go and work out these price per dosage ratios, and then compare them to anything you actually see in the supermarkets, chemists, etc. Because you'd be surprised. It works very well with calcium, works very well with magnesium. Is a very good one. B vitamins with our B complex vitamins, and also multivitamins. So when you put the cost of how effective the isotonic solution is in getting into the bloodstream up against how many tablets you'd have to take, it wins out all the time. So the question now is, are isotonics an advantage over tablets, capsules, or pilules? That's pretty much the question I'm asking now. What does everyone think? What does everyone think out there with regards to, have I given a good enough case to argue that an isotonic solution is much better than tablets, and possibly this is the advantages of the isotonics delivery system is the best in the world? Yeah, that's cool. I'd like to see any no's. If there's any no's, it would be great, because then we could be speaking about that a little bit more. Okay, now the rest of the presentation goes into a lot of the products, their individual benefits, the benefits specifically with regards to prevention, but also with regards to active treatment sometimes as well. We're definitely not going to have enough time to go over that tonight, because there is a lot in that information. So pretty much we're going to call the presentation to a close now and just start answering some questions, getting some testimonials, any ideas from those out there who are actually on the call. That would be good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Kitty, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark. It was really, really, a great presentation, and obviously there are still so much that we can learn from this, but we do have quite a few questions from the group chat, so if we can go through those first, and then for those of you who've had experiences with different isotonic products, I'd love for you to share your testimonies as well. Okay, so we've got a question here from Hui that can we use carbonated water with isotonics?
Is that a question for me to answer?
It's a question for you, yes. Or anyone that knows, yeah.
Not recommended. No, carbonated water will actually change the pH and the osmolarity. So the chemistry is done on water. And so any changes to that changes the pH. So you'd have to redo the numbers on the change for the isotonic. So it might not be 60 mils of water per serve. It's no advantage. You don't want to be doing that, or you don't have to.
No, okay. And Cleo asks, with the citric and the malic acid and potassium, don't they neutralize each other when they're put together?
Different ratios of different of those two in different isotonic formulas. So they don't necessarily neutralize each other per se. They're actually made by different mechanisms. So some will be added in some compounds and some will be added in other compounds.
Right.
Some will be more primary, tertiary, and then thirdly as well. So once again, the chemistry is done.
Yep.
It crosses a board of there's a board that actually looks at it, everyone from GPs, dietitians, and specialists. There's no issues with it.
Great. And Hui, hello there. And she asked, what's the final pH of the isotonix?
I don't actually know the final pH of the isotonix.
Yeah, that's a good question because I've never thought of that
We did actually speak about it at one of the national conventions, and I actually remember speaking to Jeff Strong about the pH. I've got 6.5 in my mind for some reason, but I can't remember. Remember.
Yeah, I can contact Dr. Strong and ask him about that if you like, and then we can get back to you guys. Yeah, but I guess it's not that crucial for us to know what the final pH is it? As long as we know the isotonix advantage as well as the product's benefits. And Dave asks, do you take all the isotonix early morning, and how long to wait before eating?
Yeah, no, you want to actually take, so depending on how many compounds you're taking, you want to wait a little bit longer for each one that you actually are. Like, for example, the company puts together, which is a big advantage, the Daily Essential Kit as an example. So there's 4. There's the OPCs, the multivitamin, calcium plus, and the advanced B complex. So there's 4. So generally we'd want to wait 5 minutes if we're taking 1 dose of an isotonic, but you want to wait 10 to 12 minutes if you're taking more than that, especially if you're taking 4, 5 to 6. Then what you want to do is you want to actually be waiting to have breakfast. There are other, if you don't, lately there have been a lot of people talking to me about intermittent fasting as well. Now, if you're doing that, we actually say take it before meals on an empty stomach. I recommend in practice that you actually take it as soon as you wake up, and even if you are fasting over breakfast, so don't take it just before your first meal, take it just as you get up in the morning. That's the best thing, okay? Apart from that, if you start to add into that anything in the way of probiotics, omegas, anything like that, they need to be structured just around food time. So anything isotonic-wise, without food on an empty stomach, the others need to be a little bit more managed.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, that answers the question.
Yeah, one of the questions that we had training in TLS, where there are trainers who have been on intermittent fasting as well as they're going through the weight management program with TLS, and they say the same thing about having it in the morning, empty stomach, and even when they're having food, obviously it's like 5 to 10 minutes, like you said, to each of the dosage and then have it after. So I think, yeah, that's sort of by and large the standard for people to take, but definitely empty stomach in the morning, yeah? But obviously if you take more than like quite a few, because 1 cup of the, I generally use sort of like quite a large cup for cocktail, then more than 8 is enough. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's right. Then you can take some in the afternoon or before you go to bed, but empty stomach as well, right? Like say, for example, calcium, you need to take 1 in the morning, 1 at night. Like 1 dosage is not enough. So hope that answers the question, Dave.
And there's a difference, Kitty, that's what I went through in the presentation. There's a difference between taking a preventative dose or taking an active treatment.
Active treatment, yes.
Because there's different amounts you're going to be taking. You're going to be taking them at different times. Like, for example, one example would be for example, athletes who are actively training, they should be taking, or I recommend they take 2 doses of magnesium a day.
Yeah.
1 in the morning and then 1 after they do their exercise or they do their whatever they're doing. Now, if they're not doing anything on that day, as in there's a day off their training, etc., they should take it at night. They should take it before going to bed, so it's in the bloodstream while they're sleeping. So there's different times where you would it comes down to whether you're preventing something or whether you're actively treating something, which can be a little bit difficult too, because with a lot of the research too, like for example, OPC3, you start to look into the research a little bit, and it's just amazing with regards to cardiovascular system improvements. The reason why it improves that is because it increases blood flow in the body, and the way that it increases blood flow is because it actually binds the nitric oxide receptors on our vessel walls, on our blood vessel walls, and actually dilates our blood vessels. And if you dilate your blood vessels, your blood pressure drops because they're less constricted, and that creates pressure. And there's a lot of research on that. And when someone looks into that research, they say, wow. And then if someone has heart issues because of that, they'll say, well, I might want to try this, but that's actively treating it. So there's a different recommendation on what to and how to take it. So you're going to be taking more and probably staggering it through the day than if you're just taking it as a preventative measure for a healthy cardiovascular system.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, and then there's a question from Cleo. Can I ask also why some people can't swallow well? Like her husband now can't swallow a small little capsule. Like, in terms of capsule, why is it?
Yeah, bit of the research behind that is that swallowing is actually taken care by a nerve called the vagal nerve. So sometimes if there's been a bit of damage of that can actually lead that you don't have as strong, or it sets off your gag reflex. So the gag reflex is when you put something in your mouth and it goes down the back of your throat, and you actually can't have it sitting there. You actually sort of choke it up or want to throw it up. Right. It's distinctive that as we get older, these sorts of problems can actually happen to structures in the body, and there can be certain, even degeneration, etc., that can happen to systems. That's the main reason why, as we get older, sometimes that gag reflex can become a little bit too sensitive because of the vagal nerve. Look it up; it's pretty interesting. That's what I would be saying. Why he can't? Okay, so other than that, it'd need another assessment.
Right, yeah, but I guess, as you mentioned, Dr. Mark, that the alternative to pills and tablets is isotonix is great. But yeah. I've also read from the website that for those that are taking the omega-3 fish oil that we have, the one that, we can actually put a needle, a hole, and then open it and put it with our salad or drink it with apple cider. So even though, for those that, find it hard to swallow. So Cleo, if your husband is taking, when you say capsule, I'm assuming that it could be the omega-3 fish oil, then you can actually, put a needle and put it with, salad or it.
Yeah, we've got to have that with food.
Yes, with food, definitely, yeah. And Cecilia asked a question, can we mix with 60 ml of vitamins, isotonix with 60 ml of isotonix OPC3?
I don't understand that question.
I think what she means is can you mix the different isotonic products together, like the vitamins and OPC3? Obviously.
Absolutely. There's a lot of the research looks into the increase in bioavailability of different compounds coming together. So, as an example, taking OPC3s and vitamin C as an example, because vitamin C is also has antioxidant capacities, they boost each other. There's a couple of great articles which you should look into that what actually happens is when the vitamin C goes into the bloodstream, the vitamin C receptor actually gets activated, and then what happens is it gets used, and then what happens is the OPC comes along and knocks off the vitamin C, so therefore the vitamin C can go around and then fall into another receptor and be used a second time. And the research is saying that one vitamin C molecule can actually be used 3 to 4 times instead of just once. So that's why the numbers and the research is showing why vitamin C and OPC are effective exponentially. They're not just, if you take vitamin C and OPC together, it doesn't just double the effect, it actually quadruples or 6 times the effect because of the receptors that they work on. It's just amazing stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I remember you did I think you did a presentation previously about how the two together helps so much about, like, you know, with the allergic reaction, like in spring or fever and stuff like that. I remember that.
Yeah.
But not only that, I think the daily essential kits, for those like Mark was talking about it, the 4 different daily essential kits, which I affectionately call Fantastic Four, which is the OPC3 multivitamin, the Advanced B, and Calcium Plus. When you put them together, you know, as a cocktail, obviously, like Cecilia, it's not just vitamins and OPC, but like all together as a cocktail is synergistically working actually better, right? Like because of the
correct
combined.
And that's a good thing, because it would be a disadvantage with time to have to take them all individually. It's just it'd be a waste of time, and it wouldn't be as good, would it?
Yeah. And okay, Stephanie, my father-in-law used to be a tablet maker. He claims that tablets dissolve faster than what is stated in our literature and videos that is required by government, or they can't be sold. Are there any government or other sources I can research to show that what we are stating is correct? Maybe the company he worked with had their own regulations with regards to the tablets they were making.
Yeah, no, you can test that yourself. I mean, if you're having a conversation with someone who says, well, tablets are effective anyway, it's pretty much a lost cause. My suggestion would be test it yourself, get those tablets and put them in some water, and come the next day, and sometimes you'll still find them there. Undissolved.
Yes.
So you need to. I don't think there's any research that you need to do apart from your own research. Just put them in some water and see how long it takes to dissolve.
Or even the one of the slides that you were showing, you know, the tablet was not able to be dissolved and it actually went out. That in itself shows with the fillers and binders, it's not really working, you know, if they're not the correct type.
Yeah. So if the stomach actually does, so the first thing is that the tablet goes into the stomach, it needs to break down in the stomach before it goes into the intestine. If the tablet goes into the intestine before it's actually dissolved down, well then it's not going to break down any further, not going to be getting absorbed. So yeah, I would question the validity of the breakdown of those tablets, but then I would question just taking something in a, you know, because when we think about it, it's not really natural to be taking something in a compressed form. Like we don't eat any sort of, like even the most dense of, like even a dense carrot or something like that is not compressed to a point like a tablet is. There's just no, you know, it's just not. We know that tablets are made for increasing shelf life, increasing fillers and fillers in there, increase the number of tablets that they can sell. And the reason why they do that is because when people walk into a supermarket or chemist, they say, oh, it's X dollars for X number of tablets. Oh, that's a bargain. So it's not. You got to be comparing the same compounds with. Yeah, I think the saying goes, you got to compare apples with apples.
That's right. Yes, totally agree.
I hope that answers a question. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think Stephanie, if you can show, you know, the bioavailability and like what you know, we had that video. I think that explains it. Okay, so Desmond asked the same question, whether we can mix the different isotonic products together. Again, yes, right. No problem for us to mix them all together. In fact, it's synergistically and time-wise wise to be doing so. Okay, so Jennifer, after dinner, how long before it is considered empty stomach?
That's a good question. You never know. That's the problem. So you can wait. Generally, we've been I remember speaking to Jeff Strong about this. How long should you wait afterwards? And he said, look, 2 hours possibly. But look, if you have any form of meat, you know, that takes longer. It's just not scientific. You just don't know. So the chemistry is being done on an empty stomach. you just don't know if the stomach's going to be empty after a meal, but you definitely know it's going to be empty after a night of sleeping, or mostly empty. So yeah, that's too difficult. I would suggest if you are going to be taking something after dinner, I would suggest wait at least 2 hours, even longer if you can.
Right. And I remember in the flyer that you were showing us, it says that, with a tablet, it takes 40 minutes to 4 hours before they can be totally digested.
Yeah.
Let alone, so I guess if it is a steak, like something meaty,
yes.
then it probably will be, so that's why I think it's so much better to be taking the isotonix in the morning, like empty stomach in the morning. Yeah.
And we have to be thinking about whether our digestive system is actually healthy enough to be digesting that quick too. Because sometimes if our digestive system isn't healthy, it's going to take longer.
Sure.
As well. We don't have the correct enzymes, the good bacteria in the gut. The balance isn't right. There's a lot of aspects which could be looked at.
Yes, thank you. That's why our isotonix digestive enzyme is a great product to be introduced to people that have that problem.
It is, that's very good, especially if you, a lot of people can't live for some reason. They can't live without their breads, rice, cereals, pizza, pasta, all the gluten foods, and also dairy. And the enzymes within that allow that to actually be broken down, basically liquefies them so that the body can actually, or the digestive system can process them more effectively. It's never recommended to have those foods extensively, but if one is finding it very difficult, that can help a lot.
Sure. Okay, and Desmond, Cecilia, mix them all together, tastes good. Yeah, see, what Dr. Matt has here, this large cup is what we use as, like you can actually get it from merchandise, at the back of your back office, and put them all together.
They're sold out, Kitty.
Hey?
They're sold out at the moment.
They're sold out. Okay, well, I have quite a few because when I went to a national convention, I bought like a dozen. So anyone
I tried to get some.
Sold out online, are they? Okay, right. But that's a really good way for you to. But otherwise, you can just have a large cup, like a tall cup, and then just put them together. Okay. And Julia, I think one of the main things for intermittent fasting is trying to achieve is to minimize insulin from spiking or even just increase marginally, especially during the fasting phase. If we take isotonix first thing in the morning, doesn't that break the fast since the glucose in the isotonix drink would cause insulin to go up?
It would be. It would.
Yeah.
Nothing I would be concerned about. And another thing to consider too is intermittent fasting too is taken on differently by ladies to men. So there's differences too in our physiology that makes us at a bit different. So that's something to think about. But no, there's no. It will change. It will spike the blood sugars up, but nothing to the levels that would be a problem. Especially when you think you just have to think what generally people in the West have for breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of processing in the foods, whether it be cereals, breads, spreads, sugar, it's just extraordinary. And when we compare that to some isotonic solution, it's a little bit, but it's not. It's actually going to create health because of what they are, as opposed to creating the problems that we're trying to offset with the intermittent fasting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like one grape, like, the content of the glucose is only like very little, yeah? One grape.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's pretty small. Some people have said to me that when I've recommended for them to be taking the isotonix, they have a look at it and they say, I can't because it actually has glucose in it, and because they've been told by their doctor to not eat sugar. And that, I mean, that recommendation is good, but the amount of sugar is so minute compared to the amount of fructose.
Yes.
Fructose is another form of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Is small compared to the entire intake of sugar throughout a day.
Yes.
Okay. So it should be thought about, but it's not everything.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's 10 past already, so if we can maybe answer one or two more questions quickly, and then maybe have a few people share their testimonials, I think that will be really good. Another question that we have from David is, when do you take the digestive enzymes?
Digestive enzymes are taken around food time. So if you can take it with the food, it's the best. And I always recommend try and take it with a larger meal, or take it with your biggest meal of the day, because that's when it's going to have the most effect. You want the digestive enzymes to be mixing in with the foods to break them down, so that the bacteria can come along and start processing them, and then break them down even further, which then goes through the intestines into the bloodstream, and then voila, perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Okay, and let's see.
I think there was also a question about age, Kitty. Can you see that one about age of when to take them?
Yeah, for young children, are they able to take isotonix? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to give OPCs to my girls when they were first born and breastfeeding and all that. So
yes.
Look, yes, there's and if I don't know if that question is coming from having whether there's research on that, or to do research on that. You can't actually do research on kids at all, like full stop. You can't actually get the permission to do research on kids like that. So there will never actually be research like that. But yeah, absolutely, it's totally safe, totally good for them. We've got to remember that all the isotonic solutions are water soluble. So if there's too much that they're taking, the body just gets rid of it. It's fine. It's safe. It's good for them.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Especially the vitamin C. You can't underestimate vitamin C in growing kids, in their development, and just for their immune system, etc. It's very important. I think a lot of kids are going with a lot less than they should be.
Yes. I've had a lot of friends also, who their kids, take OPC3 and vitamin C together. As Sally here says that, they have cold symptoms, then straight away, it's very easy to get over it. So, I think we'll just stop the questions here. And obviously, if you've got more questions, then you can always go back to your senior business partners and your leaders, and we can organize, future events. And I'm sure with Dr. Mark's expertise, you'll learn a lot from him. But obviously, in the back office, there are a lot of infographics that you can learn from. And for those of you who are in Australia, definitely I would highly recommend that you attend the May Sydney National Convention, where we have Dr. Strong always come from Japan, to teach us about, the different isotonics products, particularly pinogenol. And so definitely would recommend you for that. But apart from that, obviously, if you're from Malaysia and Singapore, you've got your regional convention and different conventions that you learn a lot from the conventions about the or product symposiums even. So how about we have a couple of people who've had really good experiences with our isotonic products to share with us, their experiences before we call it a night. Anyone would like to do that? You can either share it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. Anyone? Vera, can I get you to share?
All right. Yes, since we are on the topic of the digestive enzymes, My nephew had quite a serious stomach problem, and even the doctors could not find what's wrong with it. Okay. So I introduced the digestive enzymes, and he finds the relief pretty quick, because after food he uses even, he couldn't eat much, and he has a lot of pain after food. So after the digestive enzymes, he felt the relief sort of almost immediately. But he, being a young man, he's find it troublesome to mix the solution. So he went to GNC and bought the tablets, and was taking that, and he says that doesn't work on him. So he came back to the isotonix. So that is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Vera.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Lily, would you have any testimonial, or you know of any?
I've been taking isotonix for so long that it is automatic for me now, and I must say, trying to recall when I first took the isotonix, I started with the OPC, of course, and I must say that I felt as if, there's no more mind fog, if you know what I mean. In the morning, I didn't need my coffee. I was mentally quite alert immediately after taking the OPC. But I know that I've got another business partner, June, who is here, who has got back pain, and it was because of the OPC and the other isotonics that she took, which got her into the business. So definitely, if you have customers who have got issues, then get them onto the isotonics. Not only do they have got high BVs, but they are actually effective. And so there will be reorders. And that goes a long way to building up your belief in the business, especially when you're starting. So isotonics is really a product that you have to try it yourself and then start listening out for people with issues and then getting them on them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, by taking the isotonics, then we have the benefits, then we'll be able to have the belief and then share with others. So it's no longer selling, right? It's sharing the benefits with others. And that's how we're able to, have the opportunity to help others as well. And I remember when I first started this business, Vivian Peng was the lady who actually shared quite a few of her experiences. Vivian, if you don't mind sharing, because I remember your own experiences as well. You also had a little book where you had written different people's experiences of isotonics that you shared with us. And I remember that was when I first started learning about it, when you were the local coordinator, Vivian. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. Hi, Mark. That's an amazing presentation you just did. And
sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Full marks. Amazing chairing of this event. And one of the things I used to share was the fact that I used to suffer from very severe vertigo. Before coming to Australia, I consulted 3 ENT specialists at the Mount Elizabeth Medical Center, and nobody could help me. But the last ENT specialist, who's Singapore's top ENT specialist, said to me, try vitamins. And I said, what do I take? And he said, I don't know. He said, they never taught me vitamins in medical school, and I'm the top ENT specialist. Go try whatever's popular. he said maybe ginkgo, I don't know, vitamin E. I did all that at York. I was on business. I had to be rushed to New York University Hospital A&E because I had been 72 hours. I couldn't get anything in. I was so dehydrated. It has actually helped me overcome that. And I've checked this quite a bit. And I've had people rock up to me and say, I heard you say this, and I actually tried it, and it's worked, or it's worked on. I think Angie said she recommended it to her son Ian, and it's helped. So the thyroidism. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism some years back, and I was supposed to go on thyroxine and all sorts of things. I was told that my thyroid gland was not working and But dear friend, Dr. Wisey, I chatted with her. I told her my problem, and she actually sort of wrote me a prescription based on in a sense, like she told me what to take and we discussed it.
Yeah.
And 5 months later, when I went for my blood test, up to today, OPC, I think I took calcium, I took TLS, the ACTS I had to buy from Global.
Oh, yes.
YZ told me to snack on seaweed and, change to iodized salt. But it was largely the isotonic regimen with ACTS from the TLS supplement range. Wow. And up to today, my doctor is still amazed. She won't admit it, but she says, whatever you're doing, just proceed because, you're okay. Everything's back to normal. So hooray for isotonics and our products.
Yeah, no, Vivian, because I remember when I first started, you were the person who actually helped me so much about learning about isotonics because of your own experiences. So amazing. All right.
Step aside, Dr. Mark.
Good on you. I'm so glad that it worked out so well because, seriously, you're not the only one. I've heard so many people, like whether it's, our fellow business buddies or customers or people that, they have been trying and using the products, have all had different advantages of it. And so I guess it seems like most of the people that are on this call are our fellow business owners, shop.com. So I would highly recommend that, you recommend this isotonic products to people, not only obviously for your business, but also to make a difference, to help people and to help the people around us to become healthier. And as we mentioned, your health is your wealth, and our very first wealth is our health, and it's very important. So on that note, if there isn't anyone else that would like to share, we might call it a night, or if you want to perhaps just write any more feedback. But I think we already sort of passed 9:20. So thank you everyone. Anyone else? If not, then thank you, and I hope to chat with you. And thank you so much, Dr. Mark Pasquale. It's been amazing, learning from you again. Your presentation was amazing. Your knowledge about this topic is really awesome. Thank you again, and good night, and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye for now.
Bye, Kitty. Well done, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Well done, Mark.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.